Commission, and the forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Mount Pleasant area. I am Ruth Helwig, a member of the League and an impartial moderator. The League of Women Voters is a national nonpartisan organization whose purpose is to promote informed and active participation in government. The League never supports nor opposes candidates or political parties. Our goal this evening is to acquaint you with the candidates for the Isabella County Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners consists of 7 citizens elected by districts to serve a 2-year term. The Isabella County Board of Commissioners is the legislative and policy-making body of the county government in Isabella County. Many of their duties are specified by the Michigan Constitution and the state statute. 7 of the 8 candidates in contested races are here tonight. The candidates will introduce themselves, give 1-minute opening statement, and answer questions. Please write your questions on the 3x5 cards provided, and please hold them up so that a League member can collect them. Questions should be brief and to the point and will be screened by League members to avoid duplication and assure relevance. I'd like to remind you that we are here to address the issues. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to each question, and candidates are allowed 1 45-second rebuttal if the opponent responded first. Candidates will also have 1 minute for a closing statement. Our timers will signal when the candidates have 30 seconds and 15 seconds left, and then indicate a stop. We will now begin our opening statements with Mr. Engler.
Thank you. My name is Frank Engler. I'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters for having me here today. I'd like to go through and introduce myself and tell you a little bit what I'm about. So my wife Penny and I have 4 kids, 7 grandkids. The latest one was just about 2 months ago, so we're very happy with that. I went to Beale City High School, studied at Michigan State University. I currently own and operate Engler Dairy Farms. We are a MEAP certified farm. It's been in my family since 1880. I am actually the 4th generation. Currently, I serve as District 2 Board of Commissioners. I'm on the Criminal Justice Committee, the Material Recovery Facility. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Board. I'm also on the Conservation District. Been served the community, my church, for quite a while. So, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Leip?
My name is Jessica Lapp. I've been a county resident for 20 years now. My husband and I moved here in 1998 to work at CMU. We have a 14-year-old son who started at Mount Pleasant High School this fall as a freshman. I work at CMU, as I said, and over the past years have served in a variety of positions there, from teaching to administrative, gaining significant experience with budget and management. Currently, I serve as a coordinator for 2 academic programs and a research institute. I also oversee the research vehicle and vote accounts for the College of Science and Engineering. Though my degrees are in English, my work now is primarily financial and programmatic management. I've not run for elected office before, but I've become increasingly frustrated by the tone and rhetoric at the state and federal levels. So I wanted to enter the race to try to counter some of that negative nature of politics, and the Board of Commissioners seemed like an interesting place to start, since it focuses on the management of the county money and county services to all the people of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Hello, my name is Kevin Mitchell, and I'm running for the District 2 position on Isabella County Board of Commissioners. I've been a resident of Isabella County, Blanchard in particular, for 55 years. I did do 5 years in Alma, which I call my lost years, I guess. But I am currently on Township Board, Rollin Township Board. I've been there on it for 18 years, and also on the Millbrook-Rollin Fire Department, Secretary-Treasurer for that. I have a small organic farm is what I do for a living, and 3 kids. They're all out of school and quite successful in what they do. So.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim Marino. I'm the incumbent for District 5 of the County Commission. I was born in Mount Pleasant. I've been fortunate enough to be elected 6 times to local government, 6 years as a city commissioner, now 8 years as a county commissioner. I chair the Human Resources and Public Works Committee. I'm also a member of NACO, which is the National Association of Counties, the Michigan Association of Counties, and I'm also in the Northern Michigan Counties Association, where I was president for 2 years. Okay, I'm married. I've been married a little over a year. We have 2 grandkids, and I've always been an activist. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strassman?
Good evening. My name's Stephen Strassman. I'm a resident of Mount Pleasant. My wife and I, Robin, own Pradium Realty, Robin Strassman Associates. So one of the reasons that I've gotten involved with this is property rights are near and dear to our hearts. So that's one of the reasons that, or probably the main reason why I'm sitting before you right now. My family moved here in '67. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. I served overseas in South Korea. Graduate of CMU. I have a daughter, 2 daughters, graduated Grand Valley, both attended CMU, and 2 sons that both graduated CMU. So CMU is important to us, and it's something that we look forward to being a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Hi, I'm Steve Sweeney. I'm a first-time candidate running District 6. I'm father of 2 daughters. Josephine Sweeney, my oldest. She's overseas in Taiwan for a gap year, missing her a lot. She's doing that through the Rotary Exchange. And then I have a younger daughter, Alina, who's 16, junior at Mount Pleasant High School, doing color guard there. My wife is a CMU professor in the accounting department. And then as far as my history goes, I've worked for 20 years in pharmaceutical industry as a research scientist for Pfizer and for University of Michigan. About 2013, we left Ann Arbor and came to Mount Pleasant for my wife to work here at CMU. And at that time, I took the CMU Fermentation Sciences course, became a brewer, got certification, and I'm head brewer at Hunter's Ale House.
Thank you. And Ms. Zimmerman?
Zimmer.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Zimmer. Okay.
Thank you for coming out tonight. As the saying goes, democracy is not a spectator sport. I appreciate that you are all doing your part to be informed on the issues in our county. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to participate. I have always felt compelled to serve in my community. My husband, Andy, and I have been co-coaching our children's soccer team since they could barely kick a ball. And we have been lectors at our church for even longer. I believe it is important that in life we must do more than just belong, we must be willing to serve. I was born and raised in Isabella County. I work in Mount Pleasant as a family therapist. My husband Andy and I chose to raise our children, Kevin and Katie, in Mount Pleasant because we know how special this town is. But it's important that we keep our eye on the ball. We need to examine issues including establishing a mental health court, preventing opioid addiction, and working together to ensure safe schools. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions tonight and through November 6th.
Thank you. We'll now begin our questions, and we will start with Ms. Lapp. First question is, what have you done to prepare yourself to be a county commissioner?
That's a good question. David Ling has been very generous with his time, and so has Jim Marino in talking with me about the role of the county commission. David calls it the invisible level of government, and when I canvass, I've noticed that nobody seems to know what it is that the commissioners do. So that's one of the things that's hard for all of us new candidates to find out. I've been doing a lot of reading on the website, have attended several meetings. I've gone over the budget for this new year, and as I said, I've talked to a number of people. One of the great things about local politics is that you learn by doing. Everybody up here who's been elected was elected for a first time at one point, and that's how you gain the experience to work in government. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
I've been on the Rollin Township Board, like I said, for 18 years, and so I do have considerable experience at the local level with a small township. And of course, we have a budget and a limited income that we deal with, and we've done pretty good. We've built a new fire barn and paid for some roads to be paved, that kind of thing, and still am on the right side of the financial end. As far as the county goes, I think my experience with the township would carry over pretty good. I do keep tabs on local events as well as state and national. Try to stay on top of everything quite well with that. I guess that's it right now. Okay. I won't use the whole thing.
Okay. Mr. Marino?
Thank you. Well, lately I've been doing a lot of traveling. I'm on the AidCap Government's Board in Greenville, which is a several county organization fighting poverty. And they sent me to Denver, Colorado, where I met with people from the community action programs all over the country. There was some really good speakers. There was a lot of resources shared, and I brought it back, and I'm going to spread it around to my colleagues here. Also, I'm in the MAC, which is the Michigan Association of Counties, and that way you meet with all the commissioners in Michigan, and we have a lot of the same issues. And so I also listen to my constituents, try to find out what's going on. And one of the things we did do is sue the big pharma, Purdue, about the opiate crisis. And should we win or they settle, we get money directly to the county to fight the problem of opioid addiction.
Thank you. Mr. Strassman?
Trying to be more involved. When I'm out knocking doors, one of the things that I'll ask is, you know, what concerns you with the county, and as I introduce myself and explain what my purpose there is, a lot of people have the same thoughts I did up until about 3 years ago. Being a city resident, I really wasn't that aware or involved, you know, thinking I was a city resident. I really didn't think I had much say as far as the county. But between District 5, 6, and I think part of 7, you know, we have a say, we've got a seat, and we have influence that we can be involved. So that's probably the biggest factor is getting to know and following through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
I guess I did what I have done for 20 years as a research scientist, and that's do the background research and seek points of view from my peers around me. So like Jessica Lapp, the first thing I did was meet with David Ling and talk to him. I think I've had 4 conversations with him. I've talked with Jim Marino, has been very helpful, and Tobin Hope as well. Met several times to discuss what they do on the county commission. I've been attending county commission meetings, and most recently attended the county commission meeting where the 2019 budget was approved, and so I was able to see Margaret McAvoy give a PowerPoint presentation on that budget. So keeping myself well informed on what the commission can and can't do.
Thank you. Ms. Zimmer?
I guess I started my research over 20 years ago. We'll just leave it at over 20 years ago. I went to Michigan State, to study political science, where I was fortunate enough to get connected to some people where I landed in a page position, which turned into a campaign manager position, which somehow ended up me working as a legislative aide for a state representative, which I did for 6 years. But that is very different from county. So when I decided to pursue this county endeavor, apparently our county commissioners are very generous with their time, because I also was lucky enough to sit down with a couple of them and really pick their brains about what are some of the directions that our county is going to be taking. So I was very fortunate to do that. I've also been attending the meetings, of course, and going to some other community meetings. So for instance, some of the public meetings about maybe developing a community pool, which has been kind of something that I've been hearing at the door a lot, so I decided to pursue that more. But I think doing door-to-door has been the biggest research job for me, and just finding out what's interesting to people and what direction that they want to take this community that we all love so much, and what direction we want to go with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engler?
Yeah, me and Jim and I have the opportunity of serving on the board, so I understand how hard it is for some of these people, first-timers, to go to it. So I'll go back 2 years and look at why I decided to run for the board the first time. And one of that is I looked at the board and what they needed to do and what I had to offer. All the boards I've served on, it's always been the two of the top priorities, of one be setting policy, and the other one is the budget, to make sure that the county has money to do things that they can do. I've had over 18 years, I've served on the Greenstone Farm Credit Board as chairman, vice chairman. I've been able to set up their audit committee, finance committee, so I thought that that would be a good fit for me. As you know, our budget has been decreased by 75% since I've been on the board. Me and Jim's done a great job working on that. So, and then I've also have a highly spent over 30 years in the conservation district dealing with environmental issues, and it really came into play this year, or 2 years ago actually, when we had the big flood. We're still dealing with some of those problems. There's been a tremendous, the roads and the washouts, and we've been working on getting grants to address those problems. So it's been a long learning experience, but I enjoyed my time so far.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Mr. Mitchell. And this question is, do citizens have adequate opportunities for input into governmental decision-making process?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I know at the township level, everything is posted on the agenda several weeks before the meeting, and I think nobody tries to keep any secrets that I know of, that it's quite open. And I think that's true with the county. I know the local paper keeps up pretty well also. That's really about all I can say about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
Yes, we try to make sure everybody in the county knows what's going on. We are videotaped and transmitted on MAC Channel 3. That's the work session and the regular session of the county. Also, we maintain open door when we have Public Works and Human Resources Committee or Law Enforcement and the Law Enforcement Committee, and also the County Affairs and Financial Committee. We have those meetings Tuesdays at real early in the morning. Mine is at 8:15. They're all on the same day, and anybody can come in there at any time. Usually it's department heads coming in there and telling us what they have plans for and what they want to get funded.
Thank you. Mr. Strassman?
I'm going to say that, you know, the county is open as far as posting agendas and archiving history, or archiving the meeting history. But as far as if you want to have any kind of opinion or change or dissension on a meeting, you can go and you can talk and you can talk and you can talk, and the commissioners will all grant you the same, you know, they'll listen. Very rarely will they challenge. But really the work gets done at the work sessions and those are held usually 3 or 4 hours prior to the actual committee meeting or commission meeting. It's been my experience that once they have the agenda set, you know, they start the meeting and they roll right through. The decisions have been made. So I'm going to say no.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
I hate to, you know, disagree, but I've been going to work sessions beforehand, and they seem to be pretty open. I know you're able to talk specifically if they have open board or in general at the beginning of the statement. I'd say the one area I think that could use some work is the website. It's a little convoluted, difficult to get information. If that could be cleaned up for our constituents, that'd be very helpful.
Thank you. Ms. Zimmer?
I, too, have found it to be fairly easy to interact with the county commission and have found it very easy to approach all the members during. I was able to speak during a session and really have found them to be very insightful, and I am finding out every time more and more about our county. Having said that, if I were elected to county commission, I think I would rather do more outreach and kind of go out into the community. This door-to-door thing has been fantastic, and I would like to spend more time reaching out to the community instead of waiting for them to come to us and tell us what they need. I'd like to go out and find out what it is that they need. So as long as we're all operating under total transparency, I think that's the important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engler?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I have some really strong points that I do. You know, I'm a farmer, I know that. I've had a lot of finances, but I'm also on the Criminal Justice Committee. And to tell you the truth, when I got in there, I did not know a lot about criminal justice. So the only way to do that is I have to go out and talk to people. So I have 5 townships, and I also have a fire board. So they inform me what to do. I have to talk to the sheriff. I've been able to talk to the judges because we have a mental health issue in here. I know that's a big couple of the candidates running for judge. That's going to be a big issue for them. I think it is a big issue. We need to do something with it. So the only way I can learn things that I'm not used to is to go out and to talk to people, and the best way to do that is go out and talk to my constituents because, like I said, I have some very good experiences in some places, but other places I'm lacking, and the only way I can get that is to talk to people. So,
thank you. And Ms. Lapp?
My experience has been that the meetings are quite open and the commissioners are very accessible. I think it's been my fault in not pursuing more knowledge about what the county commissioner's responsibility is. And as a citizen, that's my responsibility to look at those relationships, to make those efforts to reach out and find out what the commissioners do and what impact they have versus the townships and the city and the other levels of government. I do think that it's important to have openness in the political life, and I think that having listening sessions, things like that might be a helpful way of allowing community members to feel like they are being heard. And if there are ongoing issues that need to be dealt with, I think we have to just be persistent. Commissioners are people just like the rest of us. They have their agenda. My understanding is that a lot of the initiatives that move forward at the county level come from the public, not just the commissioners. So it is important for the public to be involved, to talk to their commissioners, and to put forward the issues, the ideas that they have for action, and then to run if they're not getting the response that they feel they need, because we are the government, and so we do need to participate fully in it.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Mr. Marino. Are there steps that the county could take to improve recycling efforts in the county?
Yeah, I've been involved with the material recovery facility for many years, starting when I was on the city commission and now on the county commission. And really what the big problem is the price of commodities like cardboard or aluminum or all that stuff. At one time we had an article in the paper every week with educational efforts. And so I think increasing the educational efforts would be a good thing. Also, when I was out in California, sent by the city, I went to a city, Arcata, and they had a business there where they took all the glass and they made goblets and plates and all that. They had a company taking the free glass from the recycling center and turning it into sellable dishes, goblets, vases, and that sort of thing. That would be a good idea. The good thing is there was an attempt to stop it, to shut it down, and it's still going on. But we really have to educate people. Even the governor said that we have too many landfills and we throw away $400 million worth of stuff every year. So we got to stop doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strassman?
Strassman. Repeat the question, please.
Sure. Are there steps that the county could take to improve recycling efforts in the county?
There's been advocacy to have the students more involved, but one of the problems we have that Mr. Marino suggested or outlined was it's a commodity issue. If the commodities aren't bringing the dollar to send for recycling, they end up in the landfill. So there are things we can do, but if we get the students involved where we have more recycling, now we're just ended up where we got a staging area on the north side of town for recyclables, and we still incur higher costs as far as the movement, either to the trash or to another facility.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, my view is that recycling is not a business. We're not doing it as a government to make money, so we can't look at it making money. Why are we doing it? We're trying to save the earth, right? We're trying to keep plastics out of the ocean, out of Lake Michigan. So if we want to improve recycling, people have to change how they feel about it, and they need to pay for it. And I will. I'm sign up first for it.
Thank you. Ms. Zimmer?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that we need to do this in good conscience. Recycling isn't something that we're going to be doing other than cans, I think, along the side of the road to make money. And I think this is really a thing that we can start in school because it is a generational issue. I'm old enough to remember when you left the room, you didn't turn the light off, you just left it on. And so children today, we have one of the really great things they're doing in elementary school is starting recycling club, which is a fantastic way to teach kids the excitement of being in a club along with recycling. So if we can start really young and be good role models for those kids, as these kids grow up, this is going to be something that's second nature to them, just the way turning a light off is for all of us now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engler?
Yes, I currently serve on the Material Recovery Advisory Board, and also through the conservation districts. We've written 2% money for tire recycling, hazardous waste, and medical waste disposal. Two of the issues they're having at the recycling center right now is one is education. A lot of times materials they have to separate it out, and some of the material, there's no market for it. So it's basically they have to pay to have that trucked away to another facility. The other thing, which is actually one of my proposals, which I would actually like to see happen out there, is to build something like a hoop barn or a building out there so they can store some of these stuff and wait till the market goes up. I'm a farmer, I deal with commodities. I know that it's the worst thing you can do is to sell when it's low, but if they could do that, and also it would also take care of some of the problem they have when the high winds goes around, some of these materials fly away, because they just do not have enough storage facility out there. So maybe we can get that done. Those buildings are very cheap. They can be built you don't even need a cement on them. They've been in use in the ag community for 20, 30 years, and they're highly dependable and fairly inexpensive. So,
thank you. Ms. Lapp?
I agree with a number of the comments that have been made here. commodities prices will rise and fall, but we can't view it as a money-making scheme for the county. I think we have to view it as a commitment by the county to be responsible with our resources, and some of what we produce is trash. So we need to have a way of dealing with that. And by recycling, by educating with children and all ages in the community, by making recycling containers readily available, by trying to dovetail it into the way we live our lives, countywide, citywide, on campus, off campus. Those are all the ways that I think we need to pursue keeping the Material Recovery Center going. I think that idea of a hoop barn is a great one to think about. The neighbors aren't going to necessarily be happy to have things blow into their yards, so address that situation from the county level if we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, I think the recycling is a wonderful thing to have, and it's very much a necessity to keep going no matter where the markets are. I use it myself all the time. I encourage people to use it. I think storage would be a good idea for maybe the more valuable items as they go up, because the markets will turn around. They always do. And I think getting the word out, the education would be a good idea. I know there's people that don't use it, possibly because they don't know quite what they need to do. One thing we possibly could look at is tires. I don't know what the situation is for recycling them, but I do know I'm seeing a lot of tires out on the road. The other day I seen at least 30 on one road that somebody had threw out. So thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we will start with Mr. Strassman. And the question is, it's a long one. How would you support the development of renewable energy and energy efficiency programs to reduce the negative impacts of fossil fuels on our county's water, air, climate, and land? Would you like me to reread it?
No, that's fine. I guess education's probably the biggest thing. I have some concerns about wind. You know, one of the things I stated in my opening statement was property rights. We're seeing a lot of things out there right now as we transition to going to a more wind resource economy here in Mount Pleasant, or here in Isabella County. And you know, we still have a lot of oil and gas out there, and now you're kind of looking at the difference between, you know, a cost difference, but a lot of it is education, I believe. So, and I'll admit to my own kind of I don't want to say naivety, but you know, just I've always been associated with oil and gas, and you know, I tend to lean that way. But again, it's education. You know, it does have its benefits.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
I fully support our current county commissioner's efforts on sustainable energy, especially with this wind farm coming in for many reasons. And as solar energy becomes more viable, and it's getting very close as well to wind and natural gas, that should come into play too. The more we become a sustainable community, the better off we're going to be. We cannot necessarily depend on the state or the federal government to help us out. So just being independent, number one, is a great way. It's going to provide a much better power grid. And then with the better power grid, there's going to be more companies interested in bringing in people and jobs.
Thank you. Ms. Zimmer?
Yeah, I think education is a good thing to look at, but I think we also need to look at that as county government and staying very informed on what's coming next. whether you were supportive of the wind or not, wind is here now, and we're going to make some money off of it, which is a wonderful thing. And we need to keep looking at what's next. What's the next big breakthrough in sustainable energy so that we can be there on the forefront of what's coming next. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say is we need to, and look ahead. And so if we're going to look at a new county jail and a new county administration building, while we're doing that, if we're looking at that, let's be really proactive and make sure we're doing it in a way that is energy efficient and very green, have a green take on it so that we as a county are being responsible with the money that's being used. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engler?
Yeah, we get in this conversation a lot about wind energy and solar energy, and it's very exciting in one way because, and you have to understand that wind is not going to be the solution. Solar is not going to be the solution. It's a way to get to the solution. There's some really interesting research on algae growth and how that will come to our, I know there's a lot of talk about using corn stalks to burn them and stuff. Solar is just one part of it. I think we'll get there. I think what's the good thing about technology is that the more it gets out there, the more it improves. So I actually think there's going to be a lot of new things maybe we haven't thought about. If they improve the battery life, what would that happen? Then you could actually store energy. Electricity is charged on usage, so a lot of times they turn windmills off because they're not getting enough money at a certain time. If you could have a battery that survived that or a solar that would do that, I said it would really improve. But it all has to do with technology and going forward on that. So I think we'll see a lot of new things in the next decade or so. So I think it's exciting what's going on.
Thank you. Ms. Lapp?
I'm very supportive of green energy. We put solar panels on our house this past year and are very happy to see how low our consumers' energy bills are now. And my husband enjoys watching the graphs with the peaks during sunny days. But it does make us feel like we're contributing in a very small way towards trying to limit our carbon footprints. We all have a big impact on our surrounding environments, and I think we need to take that seriously at all levels of government and not think that the next generation is going to deal with it, because we have to deal with it now. I do think that we're going to have to look at partnerships, at what other counties are doing. I don't think it's something that the commission by itself would likely be able to do. I think it's something that's going to be in collaboration with townships and with the city. Any kind of larger effort at the county level, I think, requires that kind of buy-in. But I do think it's exciting to think about what kind of education we can provide in renewables and green energy. And it's exciting that the county commissioners have been supportive of the wind turbines so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Hi. I think the county needs to continue to set an example on this. The Commissioner Board should continue to look at ways for county property, county buildings to use new technology and to, like I said, to set an example for everybody else. They can see how it works. We very much need to stay informed, and I think we should work with the local university, CMU, and other ones on what the latest things are, because no one person, would know what's coming out. There's so many new things. So I'm hoping in 20 years we'll look back and say that this was the beginning of the end of the dirty phase of our power usage, and that we can use nature's energy. It produces a tremendous amount, and if we can learn to work with it rather than against it, I think we'd be a lot better off. Thanks.
Mr. Marino?
I'm so glad you asked this question. I've been an environmentalist for a long time, fighting nuclear reactors, hydraulic fracking. I'm in the Citizens Climate Lobby. After attending the People's Climate March in New York City, I came back here and was one of the founding members of the Michigan Climate Action Network. And I want to make it clear that government is not a business, and that's great, because what I'm thinking about is my grandchildren and your grandchildren. There's going to be less asthma, less pollution, less corruption, less wars with renewable energy. And I think the answer is not education. It's activism and also taking advantage of the government policies. Like there's a policy in Michigan called PACE Authority. You can make the county a PACE Authority, say Isabella and Claire, and any company that spends $5,000 a month on electricity can get a long-term, low-interest loan to make solar arrays on top of their building. And I'm also thinking that it'd be a really good idea, since the Mount Pleasant Center has no power center, to have a renewable energy source of power for that development. It could be wood, which is a renewable source. It could be solar, whatever. But we are in the 21st century now, and we got to make sure that we make this a good planet for our kids and our grandkids. Otherwise, it's going to be apocalyptic.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney will start our next question. As a county commissioner, how would you address overregulation, more fees, and more government intervention? I can reread it.
There? Okay.
That's
okay.
Good,
yeah. It's a little vague. I guess I would address it according to how it was applied and what it was applied to. I believe that we do need to have oversight and regulation. Otherwise, coal industry will dump, their effluent into a river, for example, or maintenance schedule for airplanes. So I believe that there needs to be oversight and regulation by government. That's what they do. I don't believe that we need a lot in business, but we do need it to protect our environment and the community, the people, obviously. Take it, for example, our water supply and the PFAs. If we had maybe more regulations, we wouldn't have as many PFAs in our water.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Zimmer?
I guess I'm a little unclear, too, as to specifically what this is addressing. I believe, for the most part, businesses do their best on their own, and we should be careful of how we're regulating them. I think always the private market is going to be best, but obviously there is a place for government intervention. I have not seen at the county level at this point massive overreaches going on that concern me. And so certainly that would be something that, as a county commissioner, if that was happening, I would want to be made aware of that. I am not aware of that at this time. It seems that they are doing their best. I want to congratulate everyone on the county commission currently to kind of intercede in a proper manner. But perhaps maybe some listening sessions if that became a problem of something that we became aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engler?
Yeah, nobody likes fees. I don't like them myself. But one thing you have to understand about fees is that it's very specific. If you're going to do something, that fee goes to that. If you don't charge fees for like a zoning permit or something, then everybody pays in the county. So even though we try to keep the fees down, a good example of something is recently the county passed something that came from the zoning board about special use permits dealing with the windmills. Well, in that, what there is there's a $20,000 initial fee. But also in there that if it goes over that for engineering or legal, that the company that pulled the special use has to pick that up. Well, if it wasn't for the fees, the county would have to do that. We'd have to hire, extra engineers and extra legal fees. So even though I do not like fees a lot of times, but for the people that are using the specific problem or item, it actually reduces everything, the cost for everybody else. So I don't want to go on record saying I like fees, because I don't, but there is a use for them.
Thank you. And Ms. Lapp?
I would agree with that. I think we do need regulation. I, again, would want to know the situation that's being asked about to find out what the situation is. Again, the board is comprised of people from a variety of walks of life, and I think that's a strength in that they bring different levels of experience. and different interests to the board, and so that helps to balance out the special interests that otherwise may be problematic. I do think there are appeals boards for zoning and other areas in the county and the townships and the city, and I think that is a venue for people to go to when they have complaints about very specific things. And they have commissioners that they can go to when they have complaints about very specific things. So I think a lot of it can be education and finding out. People may not be aware of a particular incident, so it's incumbent on people to speak up if they run into a problem with county rules or fees. And I do agree that it is fair to share the cost of doing business and doing things in the county so that the people who are renovating, who are doing something specific on their own property or in their business, pay the fees associated with that so that it isn't something that's impinging on other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
We need to definitely have oversight. Obviously, fees are what we have to do. I think we need to keep them as reasonable as possible. But we also have to be prepared if something doesn't go right. This would be something, it would really be nice if everybody tried to do the right thing when they do business or personal building or whatever, that then there would be less need for regulation. But I think we have a good process in place as long as we keep an eye on the overall cost. I think that's about it. Thanks.
Mr. Marino?
Yeah, I'd like to bring forward two examples. Like I said so many times, government is not a business. And that means when you treat government as a business, you end up with things like the Flint water crisis, where there was emergency managers. They only thought about profit. They made the new water system from Lake Huron harm people. Now there's court cases all about that. So we do need regulation to maintain the health and safety of people. The other example I would give, which is more local, and that is the point of sale ordinance that was passed in Isabella County. Now, the reason why we did that is because the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe detected feces in the Chippewa River, and it was becoming unusable and a real big problem. So we passed an ordinance that said every time you sell your property, you have to be inspected, your sewage system, your septic tank, that sort of thing. But if we didn't do that, things that had gone on for 20 years would keep going. In other words, just ignoring your responsibility. Rosebush did the right thing. They had a system all set to deal with their waste. Now we have to do this because people just said, who cares? And so that's what government is for, to protect everybody.
And Mr. Strassman?
Fees, I don't like them. I just assume they do away with them. But they do serve their purpose. They attempt to control behavior. Mr. Marino brings up the point of sale time of transfer. That's a sore subject with myself. We advocated against it, saying this point of sale time of transfer didn't do enough. The way it's structured, it only affects about 2 to 3% of well and septics in the county of Isabella, and it doesn't do enough. It's a long subject to talk about for the remaining minute, but it's something that really needs to be looked at, and that's one of the things that, if elected, that we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you. Technically, we should be going to our closing statements. I have one final question. Would the audience like to indulge one a little bit longer and take one final question, or do you want to go to our closing? The question? Okay, can we do it with a, would you be willing to do a 1 minute instead of 90 seconds? Okay. All right, so we will start with Ms. Zimmer for our final question. What do you see as the most important priority for Isabella County government at this time?
Well, I think what I'll talk about is the reason I kind of got excited to join this race, and that was the prospect of a mental health court. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I understand the importance of kind of diagnosing and understanding a mental health issue when it relates to the court. Many people have undiagnosed mental conditions that are making it difficult for them to lead the productive lives that they could be leading. And I think we need to address that and give them a chance to really go on and do that. And furthermore, it's going to save the county money in the long run, because recidivism rates are so much lower when those issues are identified, and people who go through the mental health court system are much less likely to end up back in the court system later on. Thank you.
Mr. Engler?
Yeah, I have to agree with Aaron on this one. One of the most important things going on forward, I think, will be the mental health issue, which is also related to the opioid crisis. I know looking forward, we did a planning session just recently, and we were looking at that, and also being on the criminal justice, I've learned a little bit more about opioid abuse than I really wanted to know. And part of the problem is with our jails is a lot of the people in the jails have mental health issues or drug problems. Now, we have a drug court, an adult drug court. We also have a teen drug court. We supported those. They've been extremely successful, but it's a way to keep people out of jail. And those are one of the two issues I think we're probably going to have to address probably within the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lapp?
I agree with my colleagues here. I also think that the infrastructure needs for the county are going to require attention in the very short term. The jail, as I understand it, is in dire need of not just renovation, but rebuilding, and that will be a major project for the county commissioners to address. And I think preserving natural resources is crucial in this county. We've got great parks, we've got water, we've got to figure out better ways to keep that water clean, whether it's coming from wells, whether it's coming through the water treatment plants, whether it's in the Chippewa, in the lakes. We need to figure out a better way as a county and as a state to deal with these water issues.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, I agree with mental health being a huge problem, especially combined with the opiates and meth drug problems. I see it a lot out on the west side of the county. It seems to be a big problem in the rural areas. And also, just as important really is the jail right now, and it's in very bad shape, probably need a new jail. So that also is a very important issue, so thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
Yes, I think some of the things that I'd like to mention are the Indigent Defense Office that's going to be in Isabella County. It took a concerted effort on the part of several people, especially Sarah Spencer-Noggle and Margaret McAvoy, but we got concessions about our security monies, and also, I mean, it was mandated by a lawsuit that it wasn't working out. Also, I just talked to George Green yesterday, the chair, and he agreed with me that we are doing really well. It's a 6-county board, the Board of Health, which I'm on, and we're doing very, very good, better than any of the other counties as far as paying our bills, not using that much money of the fund balance. In fact, we used, I think it was $1 million less this year than we did last time. And also, I would like to have a Citizens Academy so people can learn what the county commissioners do, and also how it's funded, and also use Public Act 77 to loan 2 townships money from the county for infrastructure and swimming pools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strassman?
We've got a lot of issues that are going to be coming up, and I think one of the most important things would be to get the public involved. Public needs to be aware of what's going on, what kind of problems we have, and what kind of solutions are put forth. So that's where I'll be advocating from, is getting more public awareness.
Thank you. And Mr. Sweeney?
I'm going to take this question a little sideways. I agree with everyone here about the mental health, the issues with budget for the jail and county administration building. And just like to say, I'd also like to add in, we've got significant water issues that need to be addressed here in the county. We've got a field designated at Pickard that with PFAs, the state has not come back with monitoring of where that field is going or if it's going to the Chippewa River or any other water site. Human trafficking in the area seems like on either an all-time high or at least reported significantly. These are children we're talking about being stolen away in the night like something. We have significant work to do, but it's a good community and a lot of people volunteer here, so I think we're going to do well.
Thank you. We'll now do our closing statements. We'll go in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Ms. Zimmer.
I would like to again thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to address the concerns of our community tonight. I would also like to thank those in attendance for exploring the issues with the candidates. Local government is critically important. The decisions made at the county level have a direct impact on all of our lives. As a mother and a therapist, I have already committed myself to the care and compassion it takes to improve lives on an individual basis. Running for county commission is a step forward for me as I reach to positively affect lives on a larger scale. I hope I have fully answered your questions tonight. If I haven't, please feel free to reach out to me. Let's keep talking. I am committed to maintaining an open line of communication, starting with my campaign and extending through what I hope will be my tenure in county government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for providing this forum and voter education. I'd like to start by presenting current state of issues to the budgets looking forward as I see them. The County Commission is facing a critical time with the jail and the County Administration Building. The usefulness of these buildings are at an end, and so we're going to need to look fairly recent at rebuilding or renovation. We also have county retirement fund that's only 74% funded, and we're going to need to look at fully funding that in the future. So these are large bills that are coming due for us. And addressing the revenue required for these issues and services, the current commissioners have moved forward with these wind farms and other sustainable energy, and I'd like to throw in my support for that, and I'd like to continue the work as well.
Thank you. Mr. Strassman?
Thank you, the League of Women Voters, for having this open forum tonight. It's been a pleasure to be here, and one of the things that I will push for is community involvement. You know, it's one of the things that I saw when I've been out door knocking is people just, you know, don't get in, you know, they're too busy. Their lives are too busy. Same with working on the point of sale time of transfer. A lot of times the commissioners, both county commissioners and Central Michigan District Health Department would say, well, why are just realtors involved here? You know, it doesn't seem to be a bother of the public. So a lot of it is just lack of awareness, or more importantly, lack of time. So people just don't have time to address it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
Yeah, I'd like to highlight some good trends that I've been coming aware of just recently. I just recently was at the Health and Human Services Committee of the Michigan Association of Counties, and I found out that the feds are going to increase money for foster care funding. They're trying some really different things by keeping the children with the parents. And also, I mean, I was just surprised because we haven't had very good news coming from Washington and very much sympathy for our problems. But also, there's also new taxes that are going to be put on online purchases in October 1st. We will be getting that revenue stream. There's also the $800 million Isabella wind project, which should be done in 2020 and will be a really good revenue stream for the county. Also, there's things that we can do that we haven't tried. So what I'm saying is we should not do the same things we've always been doing. We should be creative. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for this forum. I think it's very important that all the candidates get their word out as to what they stand for and what they'd like to see and what they'd like to do. I think that one thing you have to do is be very open and listen as a commissioner. And there's a lot of people that live in the county that aren't necessarily in a meeting like this. I have a lot of Amish out my way, and I think we need to listen to everybody and see what their concerns are. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Lapp?
Again, thank you to the League for hosting this event and to those of you in attendance. I'm Jessica Lapp, running for District 4 County Commissioner. I think I forgot to say that in my opening statement. I'm running for this office not for myself. As a working mom, I don't really need one more thing, except I do need one more thing, and that's to serve the people of Isabella County. There are great opportunities in this county for the residents, wonderful parks, thriving businesses, a lot of great people who love this area and call it home. But the county faces a number of problems too, some of which we've touched on tonight. Mental health issues, addiction, homelessness and poverty, which we hardly talked about at all, aging infrastructure, contaminants in the water. You personally may not face these issues, but your neighbors do, and your fellow residents do, and so we all need to work together to find some solutions. I feel I can help find some of these solutions, and I hope you will vote for me on November 6th.
Thank you. And Mr. Engler?
Yes, as many of you know, this is my first term, and I'm finishing up, and what a learning experience it's been. You get started, and you think you know what's going on, and then bang, a 100-year flood hits you, and you think, well, what's going on here? So you kind of survive that. The next thing, we have wind turbines coming in here, and we have a public meeting, and there's people standing out the hall, and there's not enough room for anybody, and so every time you think you know what's going on, something else hits you, so you really do need to be flexible in this job. At this time, I'd like to thank, I got a couple of my fellow commissioners here, Jim Marino and David Lang. I want to thank them for their patience in my first 2 years. I know that first year especially, I was asking a ton of insane questions, and they were very patient with me, so I'd like to thank them for this, the opportunity and the patience they spent with me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates for sharing their views with us this evening. And thank you also to Teresa Turner for arranging the forum for the City Hall staff, MAC 3 TV, Channel 187 for recording the forum, and the members of the audience for providing excellent questions. For further information, see vote411.org, and please remember to vote on November the 6th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. To help you be a more informed voter, the League of Women Voters will be hosting some additional educational programs over the next few Thursdays. October 4th will be Behind the Money, Michigan Campaign Finance, and that will be at Mid-Michigan Community College. October 11th will be News Literacy, Sources in the Information Age, and that will be at St. John's Episcopal Church. And October 18th will be a discussion on the ballot proposals, Promote the Vote, and Voters Not Politicians, and that will also take place at St. John's Episcopal Church. And for those of you in our audience here, there are some cards in the back of the room with the dates and times for those events. So that concludes this portion of the evening's program, this forum. We will have a 5-minute break while we switch to our second forum of the evening. So thank you and good night.
Your wife's an accounting professor?
two of us. Looks like maybe you're running against me.
No.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Hello? Could I ask everyone to please find a seat so that we can start our second forum? This is for the House 99th District.
What the script said about the end and about the candidates.
There's the meet and greet. Is that what you?
Oh, okay.
Is that what you still want? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Just pick. Did she just pour that for me, or did I just drink someone else's water?
Good evening, and welcome to the Candidates Forum for the Michigan State House 99th District. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Mount Pleasant area. I am Ruth Helwig, a member of the League and an impartial moderator. The League of Women Voters is a national nonpartisan organization whose purpose is to promote informed and active participation in government. The League never supports nor opposes candidates or political parties. Our goal this evening is to acquaint you with the candidates for the Michigan State House 99th District. State House members are elected to 2-year terms with a limit of 3 consecutive terms. 2 candidates are running for this office. Both candidates were invited to this forum, but only Kristen Brown responded to the invitation. This forum, therefore, will proceed under the Michigan League of Women Voters empty chair guidelines. We will begin with giving Ms. Brown an opportunity for a 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting and organizing this forum. Thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. I think it's fantastic that so many people care about what candidates candidate has to say about the issues. Mount Pleasant is my hometown. My husband Jeff and I both grew up here in Mount Pleasant. We're now raising our family here. Son Dan there is a senior in Mount Pleasant High School. Daughter Erica is a freshman. I'm the proud daughter of retired educators out of this community. For myself, I've been practicing law for 26 years, focusing my work representing disabled adults, representing kids who are victims of abuse and neglect, and advocating for the rights of incapacitated individuals. Through that work, I have strived to give voice and power and advocacy to people who feel like they wouldn't otherwise have it. And I now want to get to Lansing to do that same thing for all the people in this community who feel that they don't have a voice in our government right now. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have questions for Ms. Brown, please write your questions on 3x5 cards that have been provided and hold them up so that League members can collect them. Questions should be brief and to the point and will be screened by League members to avoid duplication and to assure relevance. I'd like to remind you that we are here to address the issues we'll begin with the first question. What is your view on term limits for members of the state legislature?
Thank you. This, for some people, I know can, common sense seems to dictate one thing, but in reality, I think it does the opposite. My feeling is that with any job, if you're doing a great job at what you're doing. There's no reason why you should be fired. I know that the fear is, people don't like to see what we call career politicians. They get so ingrained into that system. The fear is that those public servants will then lose their ability to focus on what it is that they're there to do, which is just represent the interests of the people that they serve. I can't stress enough my feeling and conviction that the important thing is for voters to pay attention to who and what they're voting for. And if they're informed voters, then they will know what the priorities and values are of a candidate that they cast their vote for. And again, if this is someone who has been proven effective in their role as a state representative for their district, then that's someone who should be able to go back and continue to fight and advocate for the issues and concerns that are on the minds of their constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Counties are struggling to meet the increased health and social service needs of their populations. What, if anything, can the state do to better support health and social services offered by the counties?
Well, this is something that I see firsthand doing the type of work that I do, and it's devastating when you see families and individuals who are so impacted by their inability to access health care and or services that they need to live productive lives. Doing the disability work, of course, health care is something I've seen people pay a dear, dear price for, not being able to afford access to treatment that they need, not being able to afford prescription drug medications. Doing the neglect abuse work, of course, we often are dealing with people who need access to supportive services to give them the tools they need to become better parents for their children so that families can thrive. There is certainly an investment that needs to be made in these services, and absolutely this is something that needs to be made a priority, and that's what it gets down to in government. When they're figuring out budgets, you've got to look at what it is that benefits most people in a community instead of a few. And to my mind, these are issues with health care and services that are desperately needed by members of a community. You have to make sure that those investments are made so that a dear price isn't paid, and it's important that we prioritize that investment.
Thank you. We seem to be on a question of funding. Are current levels of funding for education adequate, and address both K-12 and universities?
Education is one of the main issues, one of the main reasons I decided to run for office. As my representation of children takes me in and out of our public schools all over the state of Michigan, and I see our teachers working harder than ever with less support and fewer resources, and they're doing it all in oversized classrooms. And in the meantime, we've got politicians that are making decisions about what it is that our teachers must be doing within their classrooms, and an absurd emphasis on standardized testing and teachers being evaluated based on their students' performance on standardized tests and things of this nature. We know that adequate funding produces results. And we see our public schools failing right now because of the inadequate funding that's been done. There's been research that shows us exactly what that funding needs to be. And even though, our certain members of our legislature like to tout that they are investing record levels into education, the fact of the matter is those investments aren't finding their way into our classrooms. It's misleading. It's a very misleading statistic. And I know the question asked about higher education as well. There was a time, certainly in my lifetime, that higher education was much more accessible to families. The support that the state used to provide has been drastically reduced. And so as a result, we find families that are struggling to facilitate that ability for their kids to get access to that education. I see my time's up.
Thank you. What is the most important form of support that Lansing can make to local governments and specifically to the 99th District?
Well, we touched on one of the main areas of investment that I see are necessary in our district is investments in our public schools. This is something we see. We have a lot of charter schools in the state of Michigan, record levels of charter schools, and we see that funding is now going to be used in being invested into those for-profit schools instead of using our public dollars to be invested where they need to be to support our children, where those local dollars should absolutely be supporting those kids. Revenue sharing is something that is critical to making sure that local governments are able to meet the needs of their communities. And this is something, again, that we've seen drastically cut and reduced over the years at the state level. And it's unfair. Our local governments can't possibly meet the needs of emergency personnel, police and fire. There are all kinds of services that are dependent on that state funding and that state support. So again, this is something that absolutely has to be made a priority in terms of our state legislature making effective investments in our local communities.
Thank you. Why do you think that you are the better candidate for this position?
Well, what it gets down to is, my motivation for wanting to do this job has everything to do with wanting to serve the needs of people. And I so believe in our system of government. It's designed to work brilliantly, but that system is only going to be effective serving the needs of people if those government officials who are serving within that system are first and foremost public servants. That means their loyalty is to the people they serve, not the people who voted for them, not the people in their party, everyone in their district. And sadly, we see too many politicians who make all kinds of promises along those lines, but when they get to Lansing, they very quickly show their true colors, and they show where their loyalty is, whether it's blind loyalty to a party, whether it's loyalty to your big campaign donors, loyalty to special interests, lobbyists to whom you are indebted. This is not the way our system is designed to work. We deserve better than that. I was instilled with the value of public service throughout my upbringing, and I am so grateful for that, because this is a time when we have so many issues and concerns throughout our district and throughout the state of Michigan that need serious effort, and without your commitment being first and foremost to helping people, you'll never be effective in that role.
Thank you. What issue would you like to have passed with your name on it?
Wow, that's a good question. This is one of those, when I'm out knocking doors and I ask people, is there an issue for you that's particularly concerning? And how often I get the response is, oh my gosh, where do I start? This is kind of that moment for me. It is so hard, I think, to pick one because I see so many issues that are at a crisis level at this point. I would love to see us increase government transparency and accountability. This is something that's gravely concerning to me. If we could possibly find a way to expand our Freedom of Information Act laws, to find a way to make sure that all of our public servants, from the governor's office down, are accountable to the people, to make sure that citizens have access to critical information about who their legislators are indebted to. What on earth are they hiding? Michigan is dead last in the nation for government transparency and accountability, and that's shameful. And so I think that would be certainly something I would be proud to advance and be a part of, so that citizens can actually trust the people they send to Lansing to represent their interests.
Okay. And in the interest of time, this will be our last question. How can the state address the issues of income inequality, especially in the counties that you will represent?
Yeah. Again, just another critical issue and concern for so many people, and it becomes very personal when you're out knocking doors and you hear story after story of how income inequality is hitting our community very hard. I firmly believe that every working man and woman deserves to earn a living wage. There is no reason why that it can't be a reality. We promote our economy. We lift families up when we are in a position to give them access to income that allows them to meet their family's basic needs. We have too many men and women who are saying, I'm doing everything I can. We work as much as we can, but we're still struggling to meet our family's most basic needs. And there's no reason why that should be. And once we have everyone in a position where they can actually meet those needs, you know, obviously this benefits the economy. Those people are in a position to then turn around and invest. These are the people that we need to be focused on lifting up and promoting. They are carrying too much of the tax burden this time. We need to make sure that, you know, those at the top are paying their fair share so that our working men and women, our ever-shrinking middle class, our working poor are in a position to have access to an independent life and the ability to provide for their families.
Thank you. You'll now have an opportunity for a 1-minute closing.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to the League of Women Voters again for this great chance to talk directly to voters. I can think of nothing more important as a candidate than to be accessible and available to voters to answer their questions. This is a time when I find myself so frustrated with the ineffectiveness of government, and they are so good at taking care of a few, and those few seem to be writing a lot of big checks to politicians. But it's time for politics as usual to become a thing of the past. I want to be the public servant who goes to Lansing, who rolls up her sleeves and does the hard work that lies ahead to fight for and find solutions that are going to make lives better for everyone in the state of Michigan. And I ask for your support and I ask for your vote November 6th. Thank you.
So, thank you to Ms. Brown. Thank you to Teresa Turner for arranging the forum, the City Hall staff, the MAC 3 TV, Channel 187, for recording the forum, and the members of the audience for providing excellent questions. For further information on all candidates, see vote411.org, and please remember to vote November 6th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. To help you be a more informed voter, the League of Women Voters will have some sessions over the next few weeks. October 4th will be a session Behind the Money, Campaign Finance in Michigan, that will take place at Mid-Michigan Community College. October 11th will be News Literacy, Sources in the Information Age at St. John's Episcopal Church. And October 18th will be a discussion on Promote the Vote and Voters Not Politicians, which are two of the ballot proposals, and that will also take place at St. John's Episcopal Church. And for those of you in the room, there are cards at the back of the room with the dates and times. We are now going to move into our meet and greet. So I'm going to ask the candidates who are present to line up at, I believe, where's this microphone. We're going to ask you to, after you line up, we'll ask you to state your name, party if applicable, because obviously some of the positions do not have a party affiliation, and the office you are running for. After you introduce yourself, we're going to ask you to go to specific areas that are arranged alphabetically, and then the audience members will be allowed to come and ask questions and to spend some time with each of our candidates who are present this evening. So, and then following that, we will have some refreshments in the lobby. So that concludes this forum. I'll ask our candidates to line up for the meet and greet, and thank you all for coming. Now
Okay, well, that's what I need to know.
Okay.
Hello.
Well, thank you.
My name is
Nice
Frank
to meet you.
Engler. I'm running for County Commissioner. I am an incumbent Republican, and I represent District 2.
I'm Jessica Lapp. I'm running for County Commission for District 4, and I'm a Democrat, and I'm a first-time candidate.
Hi, I'm Kevin Mitchell. I'm running for the Isabella County Commissioner, District 2 as a Democrat, and it's my first time at the county level. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Sarah Spencer-Noggle. I'm running for probate judge. The probate judge position is a nonpartisan position.
Hello, I'm Larry King. I'm running for Isabella County Prosecutor. I'm the Democratic Party candidate.
Hello, my name is Amy Perschbacher. I am running for City Commission. City Commission is nonpartisan. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Murphy. I'm running for the 4-year term for the school board, and it is nonpartisan. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Camden. I'm with the U.S. Taxpayers Party, and I'm running for State Senator of District 33.
Hi, my name is Stuart Black, and I'm running for Isabella County Probate Judge. It is a nonpartisan position.
Good evening. My name is Dave Barbary. I'm also running for Isabella County Prosecutor on the Republican ticket.
Good evening. I'm running for Mount Pleasant Schools Board of Trustees. My name is Damian Fisher. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wheaton Pangle. I'm running to be on our school board, which is a nonpartisan position. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nicholas Madeye, and I'm seeking re-election to the Mount Pleasant City Commission, and that's a nonpartisan position.
Hi, my name is Jim Marino. I'm in the Democratic Party. I'm running for District 5 County Commissioner, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Bond, and I'm running for school board. It's a nonpartisan position. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Prelip. I'm also running for school board, nonpartisan position.
Hi, my name is Erin Zimmer, and I'm a Republican who is running to represent all the citizens of County Commission Seat 6. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Stephen Strassman. I'm running for Isabella County District 5 here in the old end of Mount Pleasant. When I came here, I was pretty sure I was a conservative Republican, but as I kind of listened to myself speaking up there, I had to slap myself. So anyway, I'm a Republican. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Courtney Stegman. I'm running for the school board, which is a nonpartisan position. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kristen Brown, Democrat running for the 99th District State House seat.
And we would now invite all of those who are present to take this opportunity to ask questions of all of the candidates who are here. So help and mingle and ask your questions, and have a good evening.
Stay in